Welcome to Business and Finance here on Echo Television International. I am Rachel Tanzi. Now, the CBN are clearly trying to make moves to stop the Naira from falling, and amidst that, they are deciding to take many steps to make sure that the Naira doesn't fall. We are seeing that some of these steps with the Naira at its low of 900, we're looking at 900 to over 950 Naira per dollar. The CBN have started making moves, and some of the moves are going to temper with the exchange rate unification policy. Now, despite we have seen the fact that CIPN have supported Tinubu's exchange rate unification, now we're talking about the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria has commended the President Bola Tinubu for unifying the Naira exchange rate to save the country from financial crisis. However, this won't take long, as we are seeing that the CBN, together with the President, are bringing back the change to the country. Now, we are looking at the CBN having a little bit control over the foreign exchange market, and then now we are having the parallel market, the black market, or the market that is not the official one, becoming reintroduced. If we remember clearly, the floating of the currency is to give the INE window the power over deciding the value of the currency. Now, when we floated, we've given the investors and exporters to make decisions concerning how. Now, this is clearly driven, the success of floating is clearly driven by the supply and demand of a currency. Now, however, these haven't played fairly well for the country, and the CBN, together with the presidency, are seeing that there is a need to bring back the change to be able to make possible the free supply of the dollar more available. As so far so good, the floating and the INE window haven't helped with that. Now, the CBN, under the Trade and Exchange Department, have released a new operational mechanism for the Bureau de Change operators in Nigeria. Now, there are so many mechanisms for this exchange. There is number 1, 2, 3, where the limit must be from minus 2.5 to plus 2.5%. Now, what will make sure that the CBN is able to keep control over Bureau de Change is the mechanism number 2, is what I believe will truly have the power of keeping CBN in charge and control. It says mandatory rendition of BDC operators of the statutory report daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly on the Financial Institution Forex Rendition System, the FIFX, which has been upgraded to meet individual operators' requirement. Now, not only is the CBN giving the Bureau de Change operators a limit of operation, but that there must be a report that they will upload to the FIFX, and it has been designed in a way that it will be monitored. We're looking at daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly report from the BDC's operators to the FIFX. Now, this is to make sure that the CBN is in control of what is happening with this exchange, with the Bureau de Change, and that the supply is within the limit that they have made them to operate under. Now, of course, there are many concerns being raised if this is appropriate, or if this is the right measure for the CBN to take at a time like this, where the unification have been accepted, and we are still waiting, because we're still at the short time period waiting to see if the floating will achieve its purpose. Now, indeed, bringing back the BDC can help increase the supply of forex in the market, which can also help meet the demand for foreign currency and potentially ease pressure on the exchange rate that had been on a roller coaster the past few weeks. Now, if you've been following closely, you will see that marketers concern for supply when it comes to the availability of diesel in the market is that they do not have enough dollar for purchasing. Now, this means, which we will look into as the program goes on, which we will look into see what this means for marketers, but I believe that this now, having the Bureau de change coming back into play, the reason is that it might improve the supply of forex in the market as it is now. Now with the new agreement, CBN hopes working with BDCs, now that agreement is clearly the mechanism for operation, would help formalize forex transaction that might otherwise take place in the informal window or the black market. Now we have many stakeholders saying that this will enhance transparency and accountability and introduce competition into the foreign market, which could lead to more competitive exchange rate. Now we are hoping to see that play out, because of course the floating was also with the aim of creating such in the market. However, it haven't delivered as expected. Now stakeholders are still speculating that this will also do the same for the exchange rate. However, depending on the level of demand and supply, influx of forex from BDC might not be sufficient to significantly impact the exchange rate, especially if there are other factors contributing to the high exchange rate. Now, yes, it might not be sufficient, because we can see, if you are to look at the mechanism for operation, the number one is the limit at which the Bureau de change are supposed to operate. Now, this is clearly to give CBN control over, but they are not in total control of the supply as it was before. They are limited as it is now, but then keeping fingers crossed, we will hope to see that this combined. However, it is completely tampering with the unification policy, but with this together, the Bureau de change having lesser power over supply as it was before the unification came in, we will see that there could be hopefully an improve in supply, and then subsequently there will be more availability of the dollar for foreign exchange and more competitive exchange rate, which could lead to the naira gaining more value. Now we can see that FAAC have given allocation for July, and it is on the increase. We've seen a month-on-month increase in allocations coming from the FAAC, and the federal government, the state government, and the local government have received their allocation. And let's go through the breakdown of that allocation. Now we can see that from the stated amount, okay, first of all, the FAAC have made it clear how much they were able to generate as a revenue, and it's 1.74 trillion naira, but what they allocated is 966.1 billion naira to federal government, state, and local government. That is because there are other charges incurred at the process of allocation. Now, from the stated amount, inclusive of gross statutory revenue, value-added tax, electronic money transfer levy, and exchange difference, the federal government received 374.485 billion. The state received 310.670 billion naira. The local government councils got 229.409 billion, while the oil producing states received 51.545 billion naira as derivation. Now, this is 13% of mineral revenue. Now, this communique issued by the FAAC at the end of the meeting, of course, they do have monthly meeting to make this breakdown and allocation clear out there for the entire country to know what they are receiving and what they are disbursing to the state, federal government, and the local government. Now, the gross revenue available from the value-added tax for July 2023 was 298.8789 billion naira, which was an increase from the 293.41 billion naira distributed in the preceding month, increasing to 5.378 billion naira. So we can see that the value added tax is increasing to the revenue generated and what state, federal government, and local government are getting as allocation. This time around, VAT increased by 5 billion naira, while gross statutory revenue increased by 2 billion naira. Now, looking at this allocation coming to the state, we are still seeing that the debt profile for our states are increasing despite these allocations coming in monthly consistently from the FAAC. it doesn't change the fact that we have overstuffed states that are still owing when it comes to payment of salaries to workers in the state. We're looking at states who are not able to pay minimum wages, and also we're looking at states that have not been able to help with subsidy removal palliative. However, the federal government has stepped in to give loans to the state for palliative concerning subsidy removal to reduce hardship. Now, these loans from the federal government to the state government is one of the major reasons why the state debt profile is on the rise and constantly increasing. Now, the fresh subsidy palliative loans might drive 36 states borrowing from the federal government to 1.34 trillion naira. The debt under the budget support facility of the federal government included 614 billion naira debt as of 2019, another debt of 656 billion naira in 2021, and a fresh 69.12 billion naira debt as subsidy palliative this year, 2023. The debt is likely different from state domestic debt of 5.48 trillion naira as of March 2003, and external debt of $4.4 billion as of December 31, 2022, as recorded by the Debt Management Office. Now, these findings are showing that debts are piling up for the state, and we can see that for the 629.12 billion naira just recently acquired 2023 this year given by the federal government to the state for subsidy for palliative for subsidy removal, the federal government is expecting the state to begin payment of this debt by December. Now, the previous terms and conditions for the debt from 2019 and 2021 still a deficit for this state, and of course some states are making effort of paying. However, the federal government is expecting the state government to begin payment of the debt for palliative by December. Whether it is a short period or long enough for this state, we'll never know until we start seeing these states remitting the loans back to the federal government. Now, not only are states collecting loans, but also the federal government, the entire economy of Nigeria is getting loans from banks, and we are seeing the bank's credit to economy is constantly increasing also. Now, the bank's net domestic credit to the economy has hit 84 trillion naira, representing an 11% month-on-month rise from 75.49 trillion in May. Now, the breakdown according to the money and credit statistics of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, shows that the private sector took 52.8 trillion naira, showing about 17.9% rise from the 44.78 trillion naira it collected May 2023. We are looking at the second quarter of the year 2023. The statistics also show credit to the government rose by 1.6% to 31.2 trillion naira from 30.7 trillion naira during the period. So yes, the government of Nigeria are in a borrowing spree, and we are not looking at only external debt, but we are talking about a rising debt profile internally from banks. We're seeing that of states from the federal government, and now we are looking at the government, be it state government, local government, or the federal government, what has been incurred as debt over the years just for the first half of 2023 rising. Now, diesel is hitting a new high as fuel consumption is dropping, and marketers are afraid of what it means for them and what it means for people who are employed. Now, manufacturers are fearing shutdown and job losses as diesel hits a new high of 950 naira per liter. Now, oil marketers said the foreign exchange crisis in Nigeria and the recent implementation of a 7.5% value-added tax on automotive gas oil, popularly called diesel, has pushed up the cost of the commodity to between 900 naira to 950 naira per liter in many states, where of course we've seen that even fuel pump price varies and differs in different states. There has never been a fixed or stagnant amount for diesel, but then you wouldn't get it less than 900 and up to as high as 950 naira per liter. Now, this development has made local manufacturers say that the situation may lead to closure of some factories and job losses. Now, we're not even talking about medium scale businesses. We're looking at manufacturers with thousands and hundreds of employees, afraid that this might lead to job losses. Now, speaking on the basis of the Natural Oil and Gas Supplier Association of Nigeria, at a press briefing, the marketers explained that their inability to access the United States dollars was impeding their ability to import diesel. And now we clearly stated that the CBN have decided to bring back Bermuda change to stop the free fall of Naira. Now, this might mean good news for marketers. As you can see, they have clearly made it out there, put it out there that one of the major challenge they're having is that there is no availability of dollar for purchase. Now, with Bermuda change being welcomed back by the CBN, we will see that supply of dollar will be available and hopefully give room for competitive exchange rate. Now, in turn, it will make the value of the Naira go high, and this fear for marketers might no longer be at play. But we will wait and see how other factors play in this game and what it will be for marketers. Now, fuel consumption is also dropping. Now, we are seeing that petrol consumption in Nigeria has dropped in July by 19.95% month on month. Now, we're looking at since May, after the subsidy removal, we have seen that this drop has been from 19.95% month on month, and this is the current statistic as it is of the month of July. Now, according to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority report for the month of July 2023, Nigerians consumed 52 million liters daily. Now, before this, we were consuming above 60 million liters of oil on daily basis. Now, this has gone down to 52 million liters daily. Now, this implies that also marketers are losing revenue when it comes to oil supply, or when it comes to oil consumption, because it is mandatory that there is demand and consumption for a commodity for marketers to be able to make profit and be able to supply and keep up with the market. But we are seeing that due to the fuel pump price hike and continuous increase and many other factors in play, we are seeing that consumption of petroleum have reduced in the country, and we are no longer at the mark of 67 about million liters daily, but now we are down to 52 million liters daily. Now, let's not forget that this is a month-on-month drop of 19.95%, meaning we will wait and see what the statistics for August is and what the consumption rate will become. Now, apart from losing money when it comes to consumption of oil, what marketers are expected to make out of their supply, we are seeing that the country is also losing money to gas flaring by oil firms. Now, despite Nigeria's dwindling revenue, oil and gas companies operating in the country fled 12.7 million standard cubic feet of gas in July 2023. We are looking at the first half of the year, and more will be recorded as the remaining half of the year goes by, according to the latest data from the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. Now, this represents a 35% increase when compared to 9.4 million standard cubic feet of gas flared in the corresponding period of 2022, meaning we're seeing a year-on-year increase compared to what was last year. We're now seeing a 35% increase to what was flared in the year 2022, and we are only talking about the first quarter of 2023. We wonder what will hold and how much will be flared by the end of the year 2023. Now, NOSDRA put the value of the 12.7 MSCF flared in July 2022 at $44.3 million, adding to the going by the Central Bank of Nigerian current official exchange rate of 768.77 naira per dollar. This translates to a loss of 34.1 billion in potential revenue. we are losing so much money to gas flaring, and I believe that this is one of the things that the government is supposed to look in. We are seeing how crude oil theft, over 400,000 barrel per day, is being missing and stolen, and we are seeing that we are competing with our position when it comes to oil supply and production. And we are now seeing that not only do we have crude oil theft to worry about concerning losing money and revenue in the country, but we are seeing that gas flaring is doing more harm also to the revenue that could be generated and the money that could be made in the economy as it is now. And we are hoping that the authorities in charge will wake up and see that this 35% so far for the year 2023 and how much that has been lost compared to the year 2022 stops at that, because we're looking at only the first half of the year, and we know that if nothing drastically is being done, 35% is just for the first half of the year. What more percentage will be added to the second half of the year 2023? Now, this is how far we go today on Business and Finance. Keep a date with me next time. Goodbye.